We are very quickly approaching the most important game of the season, round two against the Washington football team. Nah! But really, what kind of punk organization gives themselves such a lame generic name like that? It's just like, no, but in all seriousness, this will be a tough game. I know we beat Washington a little over a week ago, but there's going to be some key differences this time around. Firstly, that last game was in Philadelphia. This time will be at FedEx Field. Although the Eagles have played well on the road this year, this Washington team is going to be healthier. Most notably, Taylor Heinicke will be starting at quarterback compared to the last game where we played against Garrett Gilbert. And to be honest, I really like Taylor Heinicke. I think he's a fierce competitor. I love his spirit. And to be honest, he kind of worries me a little bit because Taylor Heinicke is one of those scramblers. He's like a scrambling quarterback. And as I've said all season long, the Eagles' pass rush isn't that good. Our defensive line is wildly inconsistent. We can really struggle to get to the quarterback. And when you combine that with a quarterback like Taylor Heinicke, who can escape the pocket, who tends to run away, that could be a very big problem. Terry McLaurin, of course, who's always a formidable receiver. We did do a good job of containing him on Tuesday night. He beat Slay on like one big play, but that was pretty much all he did. Jalen Reagor had more receiving yards than Terry McLaurin in that game. That just tells you enough right there. So we did a good job of holding him on Tuesday. Hopefully we can keep him in check again. Antonio Gibson, very solid running back. Now, here's the thing. Gibson, a few weeks ago, he would have terrified me. Gibson would have scared me to death a few weeks ago because earlier this season, the Eagles' run defense wasn't that great. Our rush defense was horrible. And it was like every team, even the Chiefs, they were just running it down our throats. But we've gotten a lot better defending the run. So that matchup against Gibson doesn't worry me as much. But this Washington team, they're no pushovers. They're gonna be giving us a real run for our money on Sunday, I feel, because they are coming off a game where they got absolutely steamrolled. They got embarrassed in Arlington, Texas on primetime television. Washington just got destroyed by the Cowboys on Sunday Night Football. That game was absolutely embarrassing for Washington. The Cowboys were up like 56-7 at one point in that game. You had Jonathan Allen throwing punches not Montez Sweat. You had Jonathan Allen. He was throwing punches at Darren Payne on the sideline. It was just a total crap show for the Washington football team. And after a game like that, after an embarrassing showing like that, I'm expecting them to come out really angry, really eager to just punch somebody in the mouth. And a team that would be perfect against would be the Philadelphia Eagles, a team that beat them before that Dallas disaster. So I'm sure Washington is looking for some revenge in this game. They're looking for some retribution after getting just bodied by the Cowboys. And it's very important. Now, these last two games, the Eagles against the Washington and the Giants, these last two games, the Eagles have had very slow starts. Our first game against Washington, we had a couple of turnovers, that fluky interception off of Dallas Goedert's foot, and then Jalen Hurts losing a fumble. And then the Giants game last week where you had Kenneth Gainwell nearly fumbling the opening kickoff. Jalen Hurts, he nearly threw a pick on a bad throw. We've struggled to start these last two games. And Washington, because they have a better quarterback this time around and Taylor Heinicke, you might not be able to get away with a sluggish start like that. So it's really important for us to just start this game strong, unlike the last two games. And now a problem with these last two games I noticed was that the Eagles, they came out just pass. I didn't like that much. I didn't like Sirianni just coming out doing all those passes disproportionately and not doing the run, like setting up a run game early. But he does tend to figure out afterwards, after the slow starts, like we tend to balance the offense. We tend to run the ball like we should be. But the fast start, we have to get a fast start in this game. Jalen Hurts, who I thought had two sluggish starts against the Giants and Washington, he recovered in those two games, especially the Washington game. I thought the Washington game might have been one of the best games of his career. In the Giants game, he wasn't amazing in that one, but he was very serviceable. He was efficient in that blowout win. But very important. Just got to get out, run the ball. And speaking of running the ball, so we've had a few injuries to our running backs. Miles Sanders, he has a fractured hand. He's going to miss this game. Jordan Howard, he has a stinger. He hasn't officially been ruled out, but I'm not expecting him to play because I remember 2 years ago where he missed like 6 games with a stinger. So I'm not too enthusiastic about Jordan Howard. But you know what? It's okay, though. It's okay because we have such a good offensive line. Like, our offensive line is so good this year. Like, guys like Jason Kelsey, Lane Johnson, Landon Dickerson, Jordan Mailata. Our offensive line is just so good at making these holes. Like, anybody can run the ball well. Boston Scott, Kenneth Gainwell, Kerryon Johnson, who we recently signed to the practice squad. I'm expecting them to elevate him. So I'm not too worried about the running game. And it's really the passing game that we just got to work on. It's the passing game. This includes Jalen Hurts. He's got to be more consistent. He struggles with accuracy. He does struggle with consistency. There was a few plays against the Giants. Like, there was one play where he missed Dallas Goedert wide open. He did address that play in a nice breakdown later on. There was a play where he threw a long completion to Devontae Smith, but it was an underthrow, and Devontae Smith had to come back to it. But like I said, Jalen Hurts, he's very young. I'm expecting him to have these issues. I'm willing to go through these growing pains with him. I'm willing to let him develop. I think that he can really blossom into a good passer if you just give him the time and patience. Philly fans aren't always patient. That's our problem. We expect things to happen like in a flash, just like that. But I'm not too worried about Jalen Hurts. But we really got to just diversify this passing offense because really we just throw to Dallas Goedert and Quez Watkins. No, excuse me. We just throw to Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert. You got guys like Quez Watkins who we completely ignore. I thought that Minshew targeted Quez Watkins more than Hurts did. In that one game against the Jets, I saw Quez Watkins play a bigger role in that game than any other. Like, we really got to get Quez Watkins more involved. Like, Devontae Smith, he's a stud. He's a stud. Devontae Smith is going to get his. Definitely give him his, but don't forget about Quez Watkins. He's a deep threat. He's a burner. Quez Watkins can be a huge threat when it comes to this receiving core because he's got speed. He can really just break away and burn dudes. Like, I really like Quez Watkins. And who else? Jalen Reagor. Now, Jalen Reagor, he's been in the doghouse for a few weeks ever since the first Giants game where he dropped those 2 touchdowns in the waning seconds of that loss. But I saw that one play against the Giants. He had a really good punt return. So maybe Jalen Reagor is starting to get his confidence back because I have seen him do well these last few weeks against Washington and the Giants. I think that Jalen Reagor, he's starting to get his confidence back. Like that punt, I think it all started with that punt return because that set up some points. We did score a field goal off of that punt return. So Jalen Reagor, I think he's improving. I definitely want to see more consistency because he did have a drop too against the Giants. But just beat this team, man. Beat this team. I remember last year, we got swept by the Washington football team. We got swept, and it was so frustrating because we gave away both of those games. We gave away both of them. You had the game in week 1 where we were up 17-0. 17-0. I thought that game was over. We proceed to get outscored 27-0 for the rest of the game. We lose 17-27. It was a heartbreaker. That was their first game as the Washington football team. We choked a 17-0 lead to a team that didn't have a real name. And then you had the final game of the season. The final game of the season in Philadelphia where Washington comes out. Alex Smith was playing. They were very sloppy in that game. Washington looked very sloppy in that game. And it gets to a point where in the fourth quarter, Washington is up by 3 points, 17-14. Now, Jalen Hurts, he didn't look too great in that game. He was 7 for 20 with like 72 yards passing, but he kept us in that game as a runner. He had 2 rushing touchdowns. He kept us in with his actions on his legs. And we were down by 3 points. It was 17-14. That's a decently winnable game. If you're down by just 3 points, you have a chance to win that game. But then Doug Peterson, he benches Jalen Hurts. He brings in Nate Sudfeld. Nate Sudfeld, who proceeds to lose a fumble. I think he threw an interception too. And we lose 20-14. We gave Washington the division. We tanked that game. We gave it to them. We just handed Washington the division on a silver platter. And I really didn't like it. I know that we did it for the draft pick. We did get Devontae Smith as a result of that. But it just it just left a bad taste in my mouth to lose twice to a team with no name. And just thinking about how they swept them last year, I just really want us to win this game, man. Win this game. Sweep them. They swept us last year. Let's sweep them this year. Sweep the Washington football team. Like, we are the 7th seed in the NFC. The 7th seed. In a season where everybody was saying that the Eagles will win like 2, 3, 4 games, we are here in the final weeks of the season contending for a playoff position. We are contending for the playoffs. We are holding a playoff position right now. In a season where everybody was counting us out. USA had us going like 3-14. Colin Cowherd had us going 3-14. We are so close to getting into the playoffs. We just got to get through 2 more weeks. We could clinch a playoff berth this week. We could clinch a playoff berth this very week. If we beat Washington, if the Packers beat the Vikings, and if the 49ers beat the Texans. All right, so first about the Vikings. They beat the Packers earlier this year. Vikings, you are not beating the Packers in Green Bay as they're looking for the number 1 seed. You will not sweep Green Bay. That is not happening. The Vikings will lose that game to the Packers. As for the Texans, I don't expect them to beat the 49ers. The 49ers should win that game. Although you never know, because then again, you had last week, the Texans blew out the Chargers, who I thought were a very good team. The Texans beat the Chargers, so they very well could beat the 49ers, but I'm not expecting it to happen. So this is all set up very well for the Eagles. If we beat Washington, if the Packers beat the Vikings like I'm expecting them to, if the 49ers beat the Texans like I'm expecting them to, we're in. We're in. Just handle your business, Philly. You beat this team a few weeks ago, well, a little over a week ago. You can beat them again. You can sweep Washington. You can eliminate Washington from the playoffs this week. Clinch your playoff spot. Prove all the haters wrong this week. Let's get this playoff spot, man. So I'm expecting the Eagles to win this game. It's going to be tough, but I think we're going to pull through. We'll see what happens. Go Birds.